and welcome to Be Kind Rewinder. Rewinder is an independent publication here to talk about the games that we care about in a thoughtful way. I'm your host and deputy editor, Lex Luddy, joined by our managing editor, Scott McRae, and resurrected from the dead, or EIC, Henry Stockdale. On this episode, we'll discuss puritanical attacks on game storefronts, the Subnautica mess, and a lot of people are buying Switch 2s. But before all that, firstly, thank you to Jerome for all of our artwork around the site and for this lovely layout. And also, I'm wondering, Henry, what's death like?
It's not fun, Lex. Wouldn't recommend. I've been dead, was it 3 times now?
Yep.
And
It's the first time since that first one that it's just that all three of us have been on this. Have
Yeah,
you skipped
probably.
every other one.
yeah, it is.
Fuck, you sick bastard.
Henry's like, I
Look.
want to start a website. Let's do a podcast.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm out. I'm dead.
Does the easy stuff like actually writing and contributing to the website.
Yeah. Writing all the news
I know.
stories.
Showing up for a podcast appearance once every 2 weeks and emailing.
I'm terrible. What can I say? Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm a little sorry. Not that sorry.
But how have you been, Henry? You are, like, I always say whenever I talk to people, you're the busiest person I know in the industry. And it's always true. How have you been?
I've been good, thanks. It has not gotten any quieter. I've been pretty almost on my own for about a week and a half over uploads. Colleague came back this week, still missing my editor-in-chief, so still a bit busy, but
And you
Yeah,
had a
getting the
whole
reviews now.
VR showcase, which seemed like a lot.
Yeah. We have a bit of a separation there because to let me get on with normal editorial stuff. So I can't remember her exact title now, but my colleague Beck will handle most of the submissions for that. I will say if it looks good, but I'll usually be the one writing the articles instead.
That being the Henry Stockdale Memorial VR Showcase.
Yeah.
Yeah, they straight up crucified me in Horizon Worlds. It's
It'll
awful.
be
Do
really
not
good
recommend.
if we had, like, an in memoriam section every week that you're out. And you're not on the podcast.
I can't.
And the
I can't
only
believe-
person that it's in memoriam of is Henry. That's the one in memoriam.
Speaking of in memoriams, I can't believe you killed Hulk Hogan to be here. What is wrong with you?
Honestly,
You took his
makes me an
lifeblood.
even bigger fan of Henry. Makes me way bigger
Look,
fan of Henry.
This is all a front. All of my journalism work is a front to have taken down Hulk Hogan, and now that it's finally done, I don't know where I go from here.
Yeah.
All right.
Who was the guy who tried to start the union in the WWE again?
Jesse Ventura. who
Yeah.
went on to become governor of
Minnesota?
somewhere.
Yeah, I bet he is having a fucking fantastic day right now. I bet he is loving this shit. Anyway, we should all talk. Speaking of wrestlers and burly, muscly men and banging your chest with your fists, I think we should talk about the game that we've all been playing, Donkey Kong Bonanza.
WWE 2K20.
Close.
That one too.
This game sometimes feels like a wrestling game purely because Donkey Kong is there in, like, his slacks and his overalls, and all he's wearing is a tie, and it feels like a wrestling outfit. And he's got his nips out. It's a whole thing.
I was about to make the worst joke possible. There.
Yeah, let's not.
Let's get by it. Let's get by that one.
So, tell me, how have you been finding this game? Because I've been finding it delightful.
I'll start then. I have not gotten as far as you both, but I've really enjoyed it so far. I'm on the forest layer, so I've got making a bit of progress.
Have you
And
done the splish where it's like, you can go this way or this way?
Yeah, so this is
Okay.
the second part of the split.
Okay.
So making good progress, and honestly, I said it on the site already, but the destruction is incredible. It's so much fun.
It's really interesting looking at this game from a game design perspective. And clearly it makes sense that they solved all these problems because they've been working on this game since, like, 2017. So, like, they've been working on it for a while. But, like, digging underground and the way that camera works and how infrequently it breaks and how often it just looks right. The way that you can like see your other tunnels when you're underground, and so you can connect up between tunnels. The like lack of clipping, the way that like the whole rest of the world becomes invisible and you just see your tunnel, it looks really good.
Yeah.
And it does just feel like a game that they did spend all that time figuring out. Having now played this game, I think like those people who were like, oh, they were probably working on a Mario game at the same time as well. Like, I think that kind of is even less likely now that I've played the game, because I'm like, nah, dude, have you seen how much work this game would have taken? Like, one, just from a technical standpoint, the destruction, the stuff that they're doing to get it running, the fact that it does run as well as it runs. Um, the other thing that I find really interesting, and Scott, you can probably talk a bit about this because you're more of a platformer person than me. It's really interesting that this game still has really good level design, which is a weird thing to say about a game where you can destroy most of the levels. Like they still do a really good job at directing you and at getting you to do different platforming puzzles and to engage with the platforming, even though you do have these like tools of destruction that you think would allow you to just cheat your way out of most of the things. How have you been finding it as like a platformer?
So, before Henry so rudely interrupted the deafening silence, I was going to say I expected to come onto this podcast and for you to tell me that you don't like it because it's one of the best platformers I've ever played. Um, it's interesting because like Mario Odyssey had a lot of kind of sequence breaky stuff.
Mm.
You could in theory really fuck about with Mario Odyssey, but I mean there have been like random bananas I've found where you will burrow into a random bit of ground and then actually I've found out I've just skipped like an entire puzzle by doing that. And I think that's kind of the more interesting part of it. I think the
It kind of feels like they looked at what whichever EPD works on Zelda stuff and were like,
hmm,
what if we took some of the design philosophy of player freedom from them and we applied that to the platforming genre and just kept on workshopping and see where that led us?
oh yeah, no, it definitely feels a bit like Mario Odyssey by way of Tears of the Kingdom at times. I mean, especially with those like little challenge areas, because like in Zelda, those chatless shrines are like your dungeon puzzles, whereas in this, the kind of shrine areas are like platformer challenges or something like that. You know, little puzzle boxes that usually that's where I think the best platforming is. Um, but it's I don't know how to describe it properly, but in Mario Odyssey, it kind of felt like there was always something like every 2 feet, and at times that felt like a bit too much. And it's still kind of the case with Donkey Kong, but for some reason, and I think it's to do with the destruction, like the amount of just shit you can find is a lot more like I don't know, it fits a lot better in a way. But I'm trying to talk about this game in the most non-spoilery way, but in terms of where it kind of ranks in the platformer thing, I don't know if I would say it's a better game than Mario Odyssey, but Jesus Christ, have they figured out how to fucking end a game and how to
It seems like maybe if Mario Odyssey is like a really tight, fine-tuned sports car, this is like an American muscle car. Where you're like, ah, fuck yeah, look at this fucking thing. Look at this thing doing a fucking burnout in the middle of the road and like drifting and shish. Whereas Mario Odyssey almost feels like sleek and nimble compared to this.
Mhm. Mario Odyssey's really good, or Mario is really good at the platforming.
Mm.
Donkey Kong is fucking brilliant at everything else. Like I can't believe I'm playing a Mario Odyssey team game or Mario Galaxy Team 3D Mario team game and saying, "Oh my god, the boss fights are actually really fucking good."
That was something I wanted to come in and talk about. Was I saw like a lot of reviews being like, "Oh, it's more like very easy Nintendo boss fights," and I was like, "Yeah, they're easy, but they're interesting. You're doing interesting things
I
Yeah.
in them." And like one of the ones that I found is you fight an enemy that can go invisible or like let's call it Nintendo Invisible, which is invisible for a 4-year-old. And when you fight them the first time, you're like running after them and trying to beat the shit out of them. When you fight them the second time and they do that, you have the zebra power up, which allows you to run like super fast, and so you can. Yeah, you do. You fight them again later.
No, sorry.
Yeah.
You have the zebra power up the first time, unless you went the ostrich route, which I'm
Oh
assuming
yeah.
is what you did.
Yeah. But you can then use that zebra power up to like cut them off as soon as they go invisible and intercept them while they're invisible. And meant to be in a state that you can't damage them, and you can like knock them into a wall, and then you can just beat the shit out of them anyway. So like, there's still really interesting mechanics and interactions that are really satisfying to find, even if the challenge isn't like ridiculous. And I'm assuming, because Mario Odyssey, I haven't finished the game yet, I know I'm near the end, but like, Mario Odyssey had the dark side of the moon, and then it had the darker side of the moon. Like, I'm assuming there's post-game stuff in this too, where it's like, okay, here's some more challenging things.
I wouldn't say it's as elaborate. It's kind of more, trying to say it like way without telling you what it is, but it's a lot. It's more in line with the stuff you get in the shrines than it is like a Mario Odyssey type thing.
Right.
Like, there's a lot of like challenges to do, but it's not like a Mario Odyssey post game where you go back.
It's not like Super Mario 3D World where they open up Rainbow Road and they're like, now you have the extra challenging levels to do.
There are bananas and stuff you can get only in the post game, but it's not like Mario Odyssey where you go back in and suddenly there's like it's those blocks from the moon or whatever, and you have to break them. Granted, I have not finished the post game yet, so maybe there is, but it's a lot more challenge focused.
How many cat shines are in this game, or are we allowed to say? Will Nintendo get mad at us if we say how many cat shines are in this game?
I think it's like, I think you need 600 to finish the post game. Don't quote me on that. I think
that is interesting. That like, Mario Odyssey, so much of the progress of that game is you need this many moons in this world to progress. This game, you can just kind of beeline it. Like, you really do not have to pick up any bananas at all. You can just hit the checkpoints and keep going down.
People have gotten to the end of this game with 2 bonanzas unlocked out of the 5. I think that fuck, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, the difficulty thing, it's the same kind of argument we had last time about Death Stranding. Like, I think a lot of the difficulty is founded in where you put your stats, because that final boss, I think I took about 10 tries. No, and I didn't really think about it at the time, but afterwards I was like, I've only got 5 hearts. I could have been upgrading it until I had loads, you know? So I don't know. Again, it's like, obviously it's there to be used, but, you know, I think you kind of make your own difficulty in some ways sometimes, because I don't really feel like this is a game where you really need to pour points into health and all that.
Yeah. Because I was like that at the beginning as well, where I was like, well, why the fuck would I get hearts in a Nintendo platformer? I'm never getting hit. Like, I am going to get all the movement abilities first.
But yeah, I mean, I'm trying to speak about it in the vaguest of ways, but like Mario Odyssey peaked right in the middle, like New Donk City.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big thing for like these kind of games where like Mario 64, I feel like peaks quite early on. Super Mario Galaxy, I also feel kind of peaks early on. This is
it peaks in Gusty Gardens because that is the best bit of music ever composed for a video game.
From where you are at onwards, I think is, that's what I was going to say earlier. Sorry, I don't know if it's necessarily a better game than Galaxy or Odyssey, but from where you are at onwards, like the third act of the game, that is the best thing this team has ever done. It is so like fucking good. They have like it's like a Persona Bayonetta level finale for a fucking Mario game, which is kind of nuts to say.
Yeah. But like, they kind of did that with the most recent Kirby as well. Where the most recent Kirby Forgotten Land has that nuts ending, and it's like, oh, this is ridiculous and badass.
I love that.
Every Kirby has that.
Yeah.
But it's weird because it's usually like the it's hidden, because Planet Robobot was like that, where it's like, you finish the game, it's like, okay, cool, and then suddenly you get, I think it's like however many collectibles, and it's like, oh shit, this is just anime, this is fucking Gurren Lagann. But yeah, I think it's maybe not quite as refined in the platforming sense, but everything else this team has like done so much better than they ever have with, like the combat,
How do
the
you
boss
how
fights,
do you
everything.
feel? Because so I'm not gonna be weird and incendiary on this. Like, I'm just not a big fan of the look or the style of the Donkey Kong Country games. How are you feeling about it from the point of view of this is not a rare game? From the point of view of, like, do you feel it respects those games, or do you feel like it kind of does its own thing completely, or how are you feeling?
Um, it's a toughie
Tough
because
question.
it's
I mean, the DK rap is in there in a limited capacity,
yeah,
and you come
I
across
think
it very early.
a
There was a
lot
line
of
of dialogue referencing Candy Kong,
yeah, I
which
think a lot of
maybe the most batshit thing Nintendo has done in the last 10 years. Reference Candy Kong, maybe one of the most like, wait, what?
it's weird. There's a lot of I'll try to think of the best way to say this. I think a lot of Nintendo nostalgia tends to focus on the NES and all that and the early stuff. Whereas other than like the nostalgia Galaxy and Galaxy 2 or whatever it was called, this is kind of, this is all in on like 90s. Like there's a version of this game just like there's a version of like the Mario movie, which is a weird point in comparison, but like the Mario movie was very much like Mario fucking rules, here's Galaxy, here's 64, here's everything. There's a version of that movie where that is just remember Mario Brothers, remember Super Mario Brothers. This could have been the same thing, like remember Donkey Kong 1961 or whatever, you know. But it's very, you can tell there's a lot of love for those rare games, and I think that um, people sometimes talk as if Nintendo doesn't like the rare stuff. I think this will maybe shut them up because there was a lot of love shown to the rare stuff, and it maybe
Some of those 2D platforming levels like are just
yeah,
they are Donkey Kong Country levels with the movement tech of this game.
but that's the thing. There could have been so much more of that. There are
Mm.
four nostalgia levels, I think, and one of them is based on the arcade game, so count. There could have been so much more of that. There's a version of this game where like all of
Stanley
those
the
are like,
Bug
oh,
Man shows up.
remember the Donkey Kong level. But I think that is what's so good about this is it does do a lot of work to reestablish Donkey Kong as like going forward, as opposed to they could have done like, oh, here's you know fucking King K. Rool teams up with the Tikis from Retro Studios games and they take over Donkey Kong Island. Like this is very
Like, it's noticeable that they slim down the villain cast to basically three
yeah.
antagonists, and they're like, no, you'll fight them multiple times, but listen,
Mhm.
cut the shit. There were too many characters in those games, and we are establishing something new, and we just want you to focus on these are the current bad guys. These are like, I wouldn't be surprised if these are the bad guys in the movie. Which originally I would have said if they're making a DK movie, it's gonna be King K. Rool. But now with like the amount that they focus on Cranky Kong, Poppy, and Void Kong, it feels like they were like, no, we want like key antagonists that everyone identifies with, and it's not as complicated.
Say Cranky Kong?
Yeah, Cranky Kong is the dude Kong, right?
You you'll have seen no, that's Funky Kong. Cranky Kong's the old guy. He's
Yeah,
in it.
right.
You'll
Grumpy
have
Kong,
seen
Grumpy.
Grumpy Kong.
Grumpy. Yeah, I was
Yeah,
gonna say. You say Cranky has like a heel turn.
that would
Jeez.
that would be
Yeah,
good. That'd be real good.
Cranky.
I
No, go ahead. I was gonna make a
I
joke
was just
about
gonna say, like, I don't. To me, like Nintendo, there are plenty of series which they just won't bring back, even though they know it would probably do fairly well for them because they just don't have the ideas. They're not afraid, in my view, to take those different chances with established series. Like, yeah, I can't even think how many Mario games there are at this point. But like Donkey Kong, like they could have brought back the Kremlins in the retro games. They chose not to.
Yeah. So I suppose the real question is, when are we getting a New Zealand story too? Was that even Nintendo?
Please.
No, that's
But still, when?
Title?
Yeah, what was
I
that
think it's
Nintendo RPG that they are never bringing back? Not Mother, the other one.
Tropics?
Star Tropics, yeah. We're never getting another Star Tropics.
There was a second one of that, though, was it?
I don't think
There
so.
was.
There was? They made
Yeah.
two
It was
Star
like-
Tropics?
It was like
called
one of
Star Tropics, so it was called like
Zoda's Revenge, Star Tropics. It was like released in 1994 on the NES. Sorry, no one remembers
man.
it because
Yeah.
yeah.
Imagine
I thought
playing
Star
games
Tropics
in
2 was
1994 on the
something
NES.
called, like- I could have sworn there was a Star Tropics that was called like Another Blue or something like that.
Another blue.
Anyway,
Some weird
speaking
thing
of
like
blue things,
Yeah.
Henry, tell me a little bit about all the blue speedy race cars in F125.
They are very speedy. Only some of them are blue. But
Wait, what? Oh,
mean-
man.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to break this to you. They are red. They are orange. They are dark blue. There's a mix. You got ones which are basically Asda coloured as well. It's an odd one. F125. I jumped in for a little bit just because it's got VR support on PC. So I was like, okay, I'm working on a feature for upload currently. That was fun. I enjoyed that.
When did F125 come out? Like, it was a couple of months back, right?
Yeah, it was about 2 months ago,
Okay.
I think. Yeah, so a bit late for a review, but keen to try it out, see how it's getting on. Did the story mode and haven't been back since, admittedly, so I need to jump into that again. It's a good time. It's exactly what you'd expect from an EA annual sports series. The upgrades are serviceable. It controls pretty well. I like it.
Cool. I've been playing Wu Chang Fallen Feathers. That game is okay. It is a serviceable Souls-like. I know Jason has also been playing it on the side. I want to write something about this because, boy, when you preview a lot of games, you play a lot of Souls-likes. Especially when you're going to events and it feels like every third game you get invited to is a Souls-like. And I'm kind of at a point where I'm like, even as someone who isn't the biggest FromSoft head, like, I really like FromSoft games, but I'm not, like, getting into the minutiae in the same way other people are. I'm kind of like, there is an oversaturation of these games, and I don't think they are hitting... I don't think a lot of them understand what makes FromSoft games good. And in Wu Chang in particular, and a lot of games that... I noticed this a lot at Gamescom last year, and SGF, but a load of these games are like, what if Dark Souls was faster? And it's like, okay, they made that, it's Sekiro, and they took out the stamina bar, and then these games don't take out the stamina bar. And it feels way worse, because they speed up the combat, and it basically just means that, like, oh yeah, you can do, like, a 3-hit combo, but then you're out of stamina and you're fucked, and you get, like, 2-shot because you can't roll. Or, like, you're managing a stamina bar when you just want to be doing stylish action. And it's weird that this is still that, like... Sekiro sold well. Like, I'm not sure why people are afraid to not just make a game that's more like Sekiro, and they feel it necessary to ape the stamina management part of these Souls-like games. Like, you can have Souls-like structure without a stamina bar. And the amount of Souls-like games that I've played recently where I'm like, this would be so much better if you just remove the stamina bar and you just let me parry and turned it into Metal Gear Rising, or something like that. Like, Scott, you're probably in a similar boat when it comes to wanting more games to be stylish action games instead of...
I get really annoyed whenever I see a game like like something like Stellar Blade or Black Myth Wukong or whatever. Where I see the trailer and I'm like, that's pretty stylish. And then I play it and it's a fucking Souls like. Stellar Blade in particular was one where I was like, this looks cool, and then I found out it was like a mid Souls like.
And
I
Stellar
prefer
Blade
him.
is weird because like that combat evolves over the course of the gameplay from going from very slow to very fast, like as you upgrade things.
Mhm.
So at some point you're like, okay, I'm kind of playing a different game now.
I every time I preview one of these games, these events, I always do the test of does it have dodge offset, and that's kind of my barometer because I played that Genshin, not Genshin. Fuck, what's the other?
Zenless Zone Zero.
No, what's the gacha shit? And they made the fighting game and the RPG.
Oh,
Oh,
First Berserker
Oh
Kazan.
no, not that one. God damn it. Platinum were working on it. Grand Blue. Played
Grand Blue.
fucking Grand Blue.
Yeah.
oh, Grambley, right.
That Platinum used to work on, and yeah, that's the same type of thing. They try a bit more, but yeah, no, that's my barometer of will I like the action in this. But yeah, I mean, I guess Bloodborne did the faster Dark Souls. Even if you don't want to talk about Sekiro, like Bloodborne had the stamina meter, but that like that made meaningful changes to how you move and how you like attack
Yeah.
compared to something like I don't know. It's been I
And
tend to avoid
also, I
Souls
should
like
say a
more.
really weird thing about Wu Chang is that one, there's no shields in the game, and two, you don't start with a parry, so you only have dodges. Um, and that is a weird experience. You can eventually upgrade your skill tree to get a parry, with certain weapon types.
That's a
Um,
choice.
yeah, but
Hmm.
you don't need the parry for most of the first like 5 hours of that game, and then you come up against a boss that is basically like, hey, if you don't have a parry unlocked on one of your weapon skill trees, you are fucked. You are just totally fucked, and you are not going to get past phase one of this boss. Um, and that boss is also like the first major skill check in a way that feels like massively unearned, because a lot of the bosses up until then are like, yeah, some of these are challenging, some of them are pretty easy, but like they're enjoyable. And I feel like I'm getting a good ratio of like number of attempts it is taking to fight these things and figuring out patterns. This
Sure.
boss, once you reach it, it's like, one, you just need certain skills to fight this boss, and two, sometimes it will just kill you anyway. And and from what I've read in reviews, that continues on. The game like then proceeds to throw a bunch of much easier bosses at you for a while, and then a ridiculously hard one. And I'm just not a huge fan of like that difficulty curve style of massively up and down. I would much rather something more consistent. Um, Especially considering like this is a somewhat Metroidvania experience in the way that like it's a interconnecting world in the form of like the first Dark Souls, but it is still pretty
Right.
linear in the way that you will be mostly hitting the bosses in a set order. Um
Hmm.
and there's a couple of side ones you can go and get at different times, but you will mostly be hitting bosses in the same order. Um so I know it just feels a little bit unbalanced.
Sure.
And yeah, Henry, you have also been playing two other games here. Tell me a little bit
Yes.
about all these robots you've been hanging out with.
Okay, so the two other games I've been playing have been review games over at Upload VR. Both those reviews are live. The first one is Clone Drone in the Hyperdome, which try saying that when drunk. That one is a voxel fighter, really good combat, like slicing through the enemies. It feels like a lightsaber when you're doing it. Um, it's quite interesting as well because in VR you've obviously got that sense of presence and with motion controls, but the enemies can just take off one of your hands at one point, which throws in some interesting challenges. Like you could play this game one controller from the get go if you wanted to. Other times you might be forced to. So it's yeah, it's an interesting one. I'll say that. I really enjoyed the combat for it.
Yeah, I've seen bits of the original version of this game, which is just Clone
Hmm.
Drome in the Hyperdome, I think.
Danger Zone, I think.
Danger Zone, yeah.
Yeah.
And that also like looks pretty cool. And like that combat of just, hey, here's a bunch of voxels and things are falling apart is pretty
Yeah.
fun. This other game here I know nothing about and I've never heard
Okay.
of. Tell me a little bit about Elsewhere Electric.
Elsewhere Electric is a game where it's mandatory two-player co-op. One person is in the VR headset, the other person is your operator off a mobile phone. So what you do is you're investigating different floors of this facility. It's basically an escape room, each floor. So look, bit tense. I'll say that there is something down there, but it's not like horror. It's just a bit like you might just see this blob creature try and grab onto your hand at one point. But it's it's a really good game in the sense that there is some complex logic, which once you start to figure out, honestly, it's suddenly like, oh, this makes sense. It feels rewarding in that sense.
Mm.
But it also doesn't do a particularly good job onboarding you, which is a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So when it comes to
it's
reviewing
gonna
a
be
game like that,
divisive.
how do you go about getting the extra person?
So I asked my fiance Bri to assist me on that, and we quickly realised this was not a game for
Yeah,
us to play together.
it seems stressful.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was. We quickly were like, you know what? We will move on to other things. We'll play Donkey Kong together, but that one we can leave. So I ended up finding some other reviewers, even some people from the developers who helped. So
Does
that
it
was
have
good.
online multiplayer?
It is online only. Yeah.
Oh, okay, that makes
Um,
sense.
yeah, so that made things a bit easier.
Hmm.
The other thing that was a bit odd is that for a mandatory co-op game, you don't have a built-in voice chat system. You
Oh,
have
they
to use
just
the
expect you.
external
Yeah,
thing.
they just expect you to use Discord or something.
Yeah, they actively say at the start, use an external service, which, okay, sure, but
Hmm.
at the same time, it's a bit like that's just adding more friction.
Yeah, it's weird because like ultimately, I'm sure developers at this point have the numbers of like most people do just use Discord. Hell, like
Yeah,
PlayStation and Xbox have added Discord apps to their
yep.
service, because people just use Discord anyway. But also, it feels like a thing that should be there in a way that like
Everyone's using game chat.
you're
That's
right.
the
You're
Of
right.
problem.
course, you're
We
right.
next time we play a game on PS5, we should use game chat instead. We should just have our switches next to us with game chat going.
Yeah.
God, I'm reminded of the days where I would play Smash Bros. Was it Brawl? Because obviously I didn't have voice chat on the Wii. So me and my friend would go through Xbox Live
We'll
to chat.
the three of us will be playing a game with game
Super
chat.
Smash Bros. Brawl.
Yeah, with game chat support at some point in the future. That's going to be interesting.
Absolutely.
We'll be able to see each other's faces. And we might be doing that on our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/rewindedmedia. So make sure to follow there if you haven't. That's gonna fucking suck. Um,
I'll
anyway,
wait.
moving on to
Might be
news.
Hulk Hogan's main event for the Xbox 360 Connect.
You're right. Yeah, we're using. They brought it to Switch. They were like in memoriam. So moving on to news. Really busy news couple of weeks. A lot of
Yeah.
stuff going on. And two pretty big stories that we definitely want to hit and we want to talk about in depth somewhat. We'll start here with a story from Rhiannon Bevan at The Gamer. Steam may have deleted a bunch of adult games because it was pressured by a group who previously tried to ban GTA 5 and Detroit Become Human. Last week, Steam revealed that it may start removing games that violate rules put forward by third parties, such as bank and internet service processors. Around the same time, it was spotted that some adult games were removed from Steam, marking a huge change in the practice the storefront that typically allows all kinds of controversial material on its platform. Collective Shout, a so-called feminist group that is anti-pornography with a founder who is anti-abortion, claimed responsibility for this change on Steam and the removal of these games. In a statement, it revealed that it had put pressure on payment processors to tell Steam to remove games containing incest and sexual abuse. So a lot of this stems from one particular game that got a bit of notoriety a couple of months back, and Steam did remove, which was a game which was basically a game about sexual assault, and about allowing you to be the assaulter. Which, yes, like, that game doesn't deserve a spot on Steam, and Steam are right to be able to say, like, hey, we reserve the right to not provide you this platform. This is a bit different, though, because in a wider conversation of what this is, and we've seen it a bunch over the years, and we see it under capitalism a lot, a lot of religious groups realize that they can lobby credit card companies and banks and payment processors, and basically by lobbying them and saying these are the things that you should and shouldn't provide access to on your platform, they have a soft way of banning queer and subversive sexual content that they do not approve of. This is something that's been going on for years. It's why you can't buy certain books on Amazon. It's why you can't. Ultimately, I think that, like, yes, this is terrible. This really sucks.
Yeah.
Because if we are going to operate in a world that is like, okay, capitalism is the way forward, the foundational part of that is, like, we all are allowed to spend our money on what we want to spend our money on, and the free market will decide. And yet we have somehow entered a situation where there is a handful of groups that actually get to curate what the free market includes and what it doesn't include, and what we can and can't buy. I don't care if Steam says we don't want to sell this on our platform. I care when a third party butts in there and says, actually, even if you want to buy it and Steam wants to sell it and Steam wants to accept money for it and you want to give money for it, we're not going to allow that to happen. And it's not just like a slippery slope worry thing, because we have seen this happen countless times in history before. It always starts with stuff like this, and then the next thing is queer media. Moving on to the second part of this story, just today, itch.io basically got out there and out of nowhere put all of its games labeled not safe for work. It took them off the storefront, and it said it's now going through them, and it's going to see which ones can and can't return, because they have also come under pressure from their payment processor. And you look at the responses to Itch's post about this on Twitter and on Blue Sky, and there was a lot of game developers there. There is, I'm looking at a one in particular right in front of me, which is like, hey, none of our games are tagged as not safe for work. They're tagged as LGBTQ, and they've been taken down. And ultimately, that's what this is. It is a way for these right-wing religious groups to try to control what you spend your money on, and also to make it so that you can't normalize things like queer media, you can't talk about queer media, you can't consume queer media, and like, ultimately, I think this is like fucking absolute, like, fucking pussyfooting shit from Steam, a company that will get out there and talk about its libertarian values of, like, we'll let anyone sell a thing on Steam, we're about the free and open market, and then not to challenge this, not to stand up to payment processors and to, like, go to court and actually go to the mat for the things that they say they believe in, when for years they were letting, like, Nazi shit on there because they were like, well, we don't have any control over this stuff, we're just a free marketplace. It's like the most hypocritical thing that they have done in years, and it's fucking like baby shit.
I just want to chime in and say that I can confirm that Sex with Hitler, Sex with Hitler 2069, Sex with Hitler 2, Sex with Hitler World War II, and Sex with Hitler 3D, all still available on Steam at this moment in time. So, let's it's like, how are they deciding what goes?
Yeah.
Like
And
how
again,
is
that's the
something
big like
actionable?
moral problem is like, okay, even if you say you don't want incest stuff on there, which I totally get, and you are like morally fine to say that, but like if you were allowing Steam or allowing payment processors, allowing a third party to become the arbiter of what does and doesn't get sold on like the free marketplace, like who the fuck are you? It's fucking fascist shit. It is
Yeah.
fascist shit. Because we see this with books, we see it constantly with books. We see that books in libraries get protested because of the contents in them, and it's usually that they are queer books for kids. And some of the games that have been taken down include games that have like won IGDF awards. They include educational games for people.
Yeah.
This is like fucking awful. The fact that Steam will allow like people to run rampant with asset flips for decades, and they'll allow people to like throw up any old AI bullshit on their storefront, but then as soon
And
as they
this is
get a bit of
fine.
but then as soon as they get a bit of resistance from some religious groups and payment processors, as soon as the people with the money and like the banks get involved, they like shirk and they totally fold on this thing. It is incredibly embarrassing. Like I would be fucking embarrassed if I was Steam right now.
Yeah, no, completely right. And I'd be embarrassed if I was Itch as well, because that seems to be going even further, as we've mentioned with the games you listed. I was trying to find those specific ones, but that's needle in a haystack looking through blue sky, something like that. So it's awful. It's yeah. People will always bring up the slippery slope stuff. They should never. It should be stopped at the top of the slope to begin with.
Yeah.
You've got to fight this thing back at the root, not wait
Um
for it to get worse.
and like it's a wider conversation of like we are in a massive lull for the health of like culture and art. Culture and art has never been in a worse spot in recent years. Um because you have situations where like even like Colbert being taken off the air, things like that. You have all these companies preemptively bending the knee to right wing groups because they just simply never cared about gay people in the first place. They never cared about queer
Yeah.
people in the first place. They never cared about minorities. They only cared about money. And they were supportive of them when it suited them. And now that it doesn't suit them, they are not supportive of them. Um, and I think that every single one of these companies that like preemptively bends the knee should be shamed, and people should like their cowardice should be their legacy. Like ultimately, that should be the thing that people remember. It's not what they do after this when like the
Yeah.
world changes in 5 or 10 years time. It should be like how fucking cowardly they were at this point, and they should be reminded
We
of it constantly.
we are already seeing it with some companies. Like I think it was Target in America, which has been so they were immediately like, let's get rid of the DEI initiatives, and sales have dropped. People are going elsewhere,
Yeah, and
and yeah,
I think like it gives off a desperate vibe as a company. It's like using AI. It's like when you use AI and people instantly look at your product and they just go, "Well, you weren't willing to spend money or effort on this thing, so why should I spend interest?" It's the same vibe of like, well, you're clearly just going for the lowest common denominator. You're trying to appease the richest man in the world, or you're trying
yeah.
to appease the most powerful man in the world, and you don't care about anyone else. And it just gives
Just
off a
to
vibe of we don't give a shit.
just to add on to that point, no, you're completely right. Like there was a game, a VR game that I recently became aware of called Katana, and as like key art, they came back after 2 years, no sign of this game. They came back. First thing they put up, AI generated,
Yeah.
and they had to then put out a massive apology saying like we didn't, basically say that we didn't think this through. So like they didn't seem to understand how first impressions matter, or in this case, renewed impressions after a while. And it screams of sloppy. Yeah.
And like we saw it yesterday, they announced the holding company that now owns the rights for Lollipop Chainsaw got out there and were like, we're making a new Lollipop Chainsaw and an animated series, and it won't be affected by DEI. And it's like, dog, motherfucker, you were just like trying to like dog whistle the worst people on the internet who probably won't even play the game because they don't actually care about the quality of the game. Like, that Lollipop Chainsaw remaster that came out was bad. It was a bad remaster. It ran like shit, it looked like shit, and like it didn't sell well. And the only way that they can get people to like give their company any support is by dog whistling the worst people on the internet.
Well, yeah, that's what I was about to say. If I were them, I would probably, pander to the dumbest people on the planet because they're the ones who bought that shit remaster. Like, if you look at that remaster and buy it, because it's anti woke, which that original game not even really anti woke. Um, of course, I get it from the business perspective. Of course, you fucking double down and appeal to these fucking stupid people because who else is going to buy this low quality shit? Like, I'm sure that the Lollipop Chainsaw IP has a lot of prestige behind it. I'm sure it will do very well, because what like they can't even use James Gunn's name for this, which
Yeah.
is what the first game had,
And they can't use Suda because Suda's off doing his own stuff. Like, he has nothing that he wants to do with this. Anyway, all this sucks, and like every company that does start bending the knee, like, don't forget them in 3 years' time and 4 years' time, when the winds change again. And yeah, speaking of winds changing, Scott, you added a news story last second here. What?
Yeah, so
What?
if we pull up, I'm gonna pull up Hideo Kojima's Instagram here.
Okay. Breaking news, folks.
Oh, this is from earlier today, but just
Still breaking.
Yeah, it's still
just an
breaking.
interesting post
It's breaking
from
my
Hideo
brain, so
Kojima.
that counts.
So here it is. It's like this is an actual post he has posted since, by the way. He says, and I quote, "While I was in London, probably shouldn't put my phone in front of the screen. While I was in London, I met a strange man who said he was a multidisciplinary artist from Estonia. He said he wanted to eat sushi, and after I treated him to some, he gave me a USB key with a link to this very bizarre song as a thank you, which I'd like to share with you here."
Oh, he's a Randy
And
Pitchford fan.
so yeah, I wouldn't put a random USB drive into my.
I was gonna say, taking a random guy who you've taken for sushi, putting his
So the
USB
song is
stick into your
called
computer.
Pretz Hell by ZXY. The Dyslexic Die is what is the name of the person. Here's some of the lyrics. Fuck, I didn't fix the fridge.
Scott, maybe just hold your phone up to the microphone and play the audio.
Please.
Yeah, I mean,
If we're gonna do this, let's really do this.
This is how we get copyright struck.
Oh no, Discord didn't like that.
Yeah, no.
Okay, we'll leave that.
Fix, I didn't fuck that fridge. Short, should have fucked the fixing fridge. Fix, why didn't I fuck the fridge? I believe there's a line like, my wife shit me in the head. It's like the name is the Dyslexic Die, and the whole thing is like saying the words in the wrong order. Like, shot, I should have fucked the fixing fridge.
As someone who is like extremely dyslexic, I find this offensive.
Yeah, so it's a song about a dyslexic man fucking his fridge and getting shot in the head by his wife, I think. Anyway, people think this might be something to do with OD.
Wait. Explain.
Okay, so remember the Phantom Pain. Remember Wacky Mogren.
I will never forget Wacky Mogren.
Right, okay, so obviously we're in the same kind of wavelength for that. Yeah, so this kind of just showed up randomly in Kojima's thing. It's from a month ago, and there was the project was put in the Bourse de Commerce in Paris from 27th of June until the 29th, and it was played in London.
Wait, what?
Apparently,
Wait, what was played? What is this
this Pretz Hell
song?
video,
Yeah.
yeah, and then the description says Olav Kikas is an Estonian multidisciplinary artist. He goes by under different pseudonyms, one of which is more well known than others. And obviously, Udo Kier isn't Estonian, but the accent in the song is very, European. So people think this might be weird guerrilla marketing for OD with Udo Kier singing a song about fucking a fridge. Uh, Possibly because of that one of which is more well known line. It's very possible that Kojima just found this fucking weird song and wanted to
Scott,
share it. But,
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
but I also
do you think that over the course of the last, let's call it 15 years, Kojima fans have disconnected from reality?
right. So my only thing is, I get it with the what's it called, that shit horror game that everyone thought they were
Abandoned.
they were
Abandoned.
intentionally trying to make people think it was Kojima-esque, right?
Yeah.
But he has done this kind of shit, like Silent Hills and all that shit. Like he has done weird guerrilla marketing shit before.
He
And
has, but not much of it has
as
included
weird
people
as
talking about
Kojima
fucking a
is,
fridge.
as weird as Kojima is, do you actually think he would have met a random person in London and took a USB drive from them and played and posted their song about fucking the fridge?
Do I think Kojima practices good digital safety? Hell no. I totally see this happening. I totally see Kojima getting hammered and going out drinking in London and meeting a random guy. And then just seeing where the night takes him.
A month later, I don't know. It's too
It's
weird.
an odd one.
Also, yeah, this person, there is no, there's nothing about them existing.
I mean, I suppose the good news about this story is we will probably know by the end of August if this is all bullshit. Because
do you think that a random Estonian multidisciplinary artist can get museum spots for a song about fucking fridges unless there is something at play here?
Oh, totally. Scott, my sister is an illustrator. She works in the art world. Yep. Government grants, baby.
Anyway, the song's really good. Anyway.
Yeah.
That's my addition to it as quite a good song.
Thank you for adding this to the news rundown. We will know probably by the end of August because Gamescom opening night live is.
Now I'm in the house pistol.
You are in the house pistol.
Very nurse. But see, I'm hiding in my dead. And there's so much pain in my brain.
You're right. But yeah, we'll know after Gamescom opening night live if this is real, I'm guessing, because if this is guerrilla marketing, Kojima's showing up at Gamescom opening night live with this artist, and they're gonna play it there, and it's gonna be
man, imagine it's
terrible.
Kojima raps opening night live.
No, he's just gonna fuck the fridge. That's all he's gonna do.
You're
shit
right.
Me in my head.
Yeah.
Other things that are extremely.
PT have someone talking about like fucking. Didn't you have to shout about Jareth from Labyrinth in this?
Yes,
PT?
but that.
I'm telling you, I believe it.
Okay, yeah, now I'm seeing it. Now I'm believing.
Some weird shit.
Speaking of things that make no fucking sense, Craft in response to Subnautica's founder's lawsuit, we are looking forward to defending ourselves in court. This comes from Andy Robinson at VGC. Publisher Crafton has responded to a lawsuit formed by the Subnautica leads, stating that it looks forward to defending ourselves in court. Details on this case against Crafton were, so we talked about this a little bit last week. We didn't get to dive into it a whole lot. Basically, the 3 creative leads at Unknown Worlds were fired. Unknown Worlds is the developer of Subnautica and Subnautica Below Zero. They recently, over the course of the pandemic, they sold to Crafton in a big money deal, as far as I know. It was like over $200 million, which is a lot of money for a studio. But they sold and apparently tied up in this deal was if they hit a certain revenue target by 2025, Crafton would have to pay out $250 million to what's it called, Unknown Worlds developers from like all ranges. So people would be receiving upwards of six figures, even if they were just like junior developers at Unknown Worlds. The three creative leads have gotten out there and said that they were ousted, and that this was a planned thing because Crafton don't want them in leadership to release Subnautica 2 in early access. They were planning on releasing Subnautica 2 in early access this year, and that would be how they would hit that revenue target. Those three decision makers have now been taken out of the company, and Crafton put in a new leader, Steve Papoussis, who was at Striking Distance and Visceral before this. And they have said we are delaying Subnautica 2 to 2026 because we don't believe there is enough content in there for it to be a satisfying game. And people are accusing them of delaying it because they don't want to make the payout. This is
they have since gone and said, "Oh yeah, we're still doing that next year."
Yes, which is really interesting because a lot of this gives off the vibe of Crafton got caught. You know, like they tried to do this and then they got called out, and now they're like, "No, we're still going to pay it out."
To me, it reads that they expected the game to initially not make 2025.
Yeah.
If you're going to make that sort of promise with that much money, you have to be sure that you're not going to cash out.
We said this last week, but that first statement that Crafton put out was some real like you would not be saying this if you were not sure of what what was happening.
Yeah,
Sure.
Crafton put out a press release basically claiming that the three studio leads had left their posts, that they had gone AWOL, and that they were working on a indie film, which like you can find Kickstarter pages for, and it like seems to be some weird AI stuff or something. It's like a Christmas movie or something. But it is weird seeing both parties talk about this because it's rare when you have a lawsuit come up like this that both parties seem as convinced that they're in the right. Like usually one company is or one group is on the defensive and the other company is on the offensive. Both of these groups seem convinced that they have an argument, and I think that this is going to be a really fucking once this goes to court, because I doubt it's going to be settled out of court. This seems like it will be really messy. And
they said, I want to say, I don't know if we have it in here. I believe the founders said we were working on a Subnautica movie that Crafton knew about or something like that as well. But yeah, it's definitely, again, like Crafton's statement was very inflammatory. Not inflammatory, that's maybe not the right word, but you know what I mean? Like, it was very pointed in a way that you don't really see from this type of company. Like you wouldn't see this type of statement from someone unless it is like they believe that they are bulletproof. I will say, just to kind of go back, how much did you say Crafting get sold for? Subnautica Studio get sold for?
It was over 200 million, if memory serves.
All of Square Enix's Western studios are sold for 300 million. Jesus Christ!
Like,
put that in perspective.
You have to remember that during the pandemic, like people were paying way too much for developers. It was out of control. The amount that people the amount that was paid for Bungie, the amount that was paid for all these different companies that were sold during the pandemic, and because the industry was in this growth spurt that it was during the pandemic, was like totally out of control. And so you've now seen a lot of the companies that bought these studios be like, well, we spent too much money, now we got to make some of that back. And how do we make it back? And it's usually by slimming down employee numbers, or by finding other ways to make money.
I'm very good at business, and I think we should buy a bunch of studios based on a deal that hasn't gone through yet. That can't go wrong at all.
Yeah.
Just to add, so I looked it up just to see how much they did pay. I found an old thing from 2021. It said like Krafton will pay 500 million US dollars for a full stake in Unknown Worlds, with the option of offering an additional 250 million in an earnout provision due in 2026.
That's nuts. Half a
that is
billion dollars for a
I will
single.
send that link to you now.
Half $1 billion
That is-
for a single indie developer that have had like
That's crazy.
yeah,
that is more than Crystal Dynamics, Eidos Montreal,
Yeah.
whatever were sold
yeah.
for.
And like Unknown Worlds has one IP. I know Subnautica is profitable and
yeah.
is big, but like
But
the
it's not
idea,
fucking Minecraft, is it?
That profitable.
You know?
like it sold like hotcakes on Steam. It is really big. It is one of the biggest games on Steam consistently. But like, the idea of spending that much for a team and a studio that only have one IP is nutso.
Well, that like Minecraft at 2 billion felt weird at the time.
Yeah.
I believe that is probably. I don't know if that just doesn't feel weird now because we've been through the era of Bethesda for 7 billion and Activision for whatever the fuck that was. That was what 70, but you know, 500k for a game is.
I will just point out other places are saying that it was an undisclosed amount, but that specific one is saying 500 million.
Now you come in with the facts.
But even then though, that still mentions the 250 million, even as far back as 21.
Anyway, this seems like it's going to be an ongoing story. It seems like it's only going to get messier as things go on. And yeah, we talked about it a bit on the last episode, but like Krafton owns a bunch of other studios. If I were them, I'd be pretty worried. If my parent company was like, if I was developers at these studios, I would be pretty worried that my parent company was willing to go this knives out on one of my own studios, or on one of its own studios. Next story here from Rebecca Valentine at IGN. The Nintendo Switch 2 is the fastest selling gaming hardware in US history. The Nintendo Switch 2 debuted in June to become the fastest selling hardware ever in US, shooting spending on games to a new monthly record according to the monthly report by Sakana. Spending on hardware was up a whopping 249% year over year, thanks to the console's debut in June, reaching $978 million and greatly surpassing the previous monthly record for June in 2008, which was $608 million. In total, the Switch 2 has sold 1.6 million units in the US during its launch month, beating the PS4's previous sales record of 1.1 in November 2020 or November 2013. Unshockingly, it's the best-selling console of the month, both in terms of units and dollar sales. Some other interesting tidbits from Circana's reporting is that the Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive Mario Kart World was the best-selling game, somewhat expectedly, but it was followed up by Cyberpunk 2077 and Rune Factory Guardians of Azuma, which also both launched alongside the console, which is...
Is this physical sales?
No, this is physical and digital.
Right, I was going to say, it would make sense if those were the physical numbers because those are the free games that released on actual cards.
Yeah.
I want to say...
Yeah, about what I was going to say.
Deltarune also did extremely well, apparently.
Yeah.
Possibly beating Mario Kart World, but I don't know if that's down to like how they count those packing codes or not. But apparently, Deltarune was the best-selling digital game on Switch 2.
Yeah.
Which is kind of wild.
So Rebecca got out there and got a quote from Matt, which is a pretty interesting one, so I'll just read it out. Matt Piscatella, who kind of puts these Circana reports together, said, "What the launch sales of Switch 2 primarily tells us is that they made a lot of Switch 2s to sell at launch. Lifetime sales and launch sales of a console often do not correlate, meaning that some consoles with small launches end up doing incredibly well over their lifetime. Only PS2 only sold 400,000 units in its launch month, while others with big launches ended up not doing so well during their lifetime. since launch
I think.
month. Yep.
Oh, sorry. Go on.
Since launch month, demand is rarely satiated by availability supply, and is certainly it is certainly not a great sign when it is historically. Don't quite know what he meant there. We can all really get a read on the launch of this confidence of the manufacturer to make so many units available. Basically, what he's saying is Nintendo made a lot of units and they got them into the US and they got them into the supply chain in a way that
So
other companies haven't done with their console launches.
yeah, so all I was going to say there is we have to remember that when, like, for comparison, PS5 and Xbox Series came out, there was the semiconductor shortage. There was a lot of issues back in 2020, obviously because of COVID-19 pandemic. So it might not be the fairest comparison for that, but it's still impressive.
There's a lot of talk that the Switch 2 was going to come out last year, if you recall,
Yeah.
and it kind of got pushed to this year, so that Nintendo could make a fucking ton of them. I think they really wanted to avoid, what happened with the PS5 and the Xbox Series X to a lesser extent, especially when even the Switch was selling out at that time and really hard to get. But my question was going to be, do we think, or how much do we maybe think this was impacted by, hey, these shits might get really fucking expensive soon,
Yeah.
I think a lot of it was there was an urgency around buying this console that there wasn't, paired with they had probably been stockpiling these consoles in the US with the expectation that these tariffs would be coming in. And like, I think it was the right move because Trump's now out there saying that he wants to do the tariffs again. He's like back on the tariff kick. And I think I said it a few weeks ago when he was first talking about like bringing back the tariffs after the 90-day pause, was like, oh, he's going to have a lot more scandals that he's going to want to distract from with the tariffs. And boy, does he have some scandals that he wants to distract from right now. So I think we're going to hear a lot more about tariffs real soon.
Is he not doing a real good job of distracting from the scandal by being like, the scandal doesn't exist?
You're right. Everyone, please calm down. Just forget about it. It's fine.
He'd be too busy suing, or not suing, like getting fucking Paramount to cancel South Park now.
Yeah.
Which
didn't they just pay for a big deal?
Yeah, we are not in it. Oh, actually, I want to talk about this because it's actually kind of, I don't watch South Park anymore, but fucking good on them. Fucking, so it's Colbert is under Paramount as well, and obviously they get cancelled because of funding reasons, not to do with the government at all. And then they ink this fucking deal, and like 2 days later, there's an episode that just goes all in on them. It goes all in on Trump, and it goes all in because they haven't mentioned Trump at all
for a while,
ever. I think, at least since he's been president. I don't think they delayed this season specifically so they wouldn't have to cover the election, I believe. So you know what, fucking, it's nice to see in an era where things are getting like that. We just talked about this with the Steam stuff, where things are getting like bowing down a lot more to the government shit. Where even this show that has not been very good for the last however many years is doing like getting paid billions and then immediately being like, hey, fuck you for bowing the leg.
And while we're talking about like general media stuff, shout out to that Superman movie. That movie rules.
The Superman movie, kind of messy.
It's messy, but
real good.
It's really nice to see a big blockbuster movie with like something to say, I thought that when I went to see Sinners as well, where I was like, man, they can still make movies like this that have like interesting things to say.
Cannot believe how blatant Superman was about certain world even.
Yeah.
I heard it was about that. Did not expect it to be so very obviously about
it was blatant enough that I went to see it with my dad a second time because I wanted to show it to him, because he cares a lot about this kind of politics and art and media, and he was like, man, damn, how'd they make this? And I was like, yeah, I know, it's nuts. It's nuts that this exists.
They didn't name drop any particular thing. Just maybe people were identifying with those
Yeah,
themes.
maybe it
for
says
whatever
more that they didn't have to name drop, you know? That in this world
Yeah.
of supervillains and like evildoers, they didn't have to name drop at any point.
But yeah,
Yeah.
anyway, that I think I still prefer Suicide Squad in terms of James Gunn films, but it was good.
That's just
Did
because
see it,
you have a
Henry?
crush on John Cena. God damn it. Anyway,
I said
um,
this 2 weeks
I-
ago, or however many times ago.
I-
John Cena is one of the finest comedic actors of our generation. Also, is John Cena not in Superman?
he is briefly. Yeah,
Um,
yeah, very
yeah,
briefly.
that was the best part of that film. There we go.
There we go.
I've not seen it yet, but I am going to soon.
All that is to say, Switch 2
see-
selling pretty well, I guess.
Did you see that review where someone was like, "Fantastic Four is so amazing, it beats you off"?
Yeah,
with
yep.
Joy or whatever. That and
I'm out. I'm out.
Oh, did
I
we cover?
love modern day film criticism.
Did we cover Fantastic Foreskins coming to Fortnite?
Oh, for God's
Yeah, it's been a real week. It's been a real
Yeah.
fucking week.
So
Boy.
anyway, we're gonna pivot now because we stopped talking about games. This is now a Sopranos podcast.
Yeah,
We're gonna talk about nothing.
Finally.
Nothing but the Sopranos. I had this idea.
a
Like,
show I haven't seen.
I had this idea like last night, like imagine doing like a rewatch or a watch podcast for like The Sopranos or like The Wire or one of these really older, like the older prestige
Yeah.
television, and be like, oh man, they just fucking rip off Breaking Bad with this one.
We should do it, but we should do it for the Shield, the one with Don Cheadle. Oh, not Don. What's his name?
Marvel's Agents of Shield,
No,
Oh,
the
God.
Shield.
Columbo.
No, it's too late. Too late.
I like Agents of
Let's
Shield.
watch-
That's a
let's
show that
watch,
after season 1 got really good.
Michael Checklist, that's the one.
Michael Checklist, that's it.
We should then do fucking what is it? What's that show? The Avengers. We should watch the Avengers, the old BBC
Oh, God.
crime
we
periodical.
we should watch
all those DVDs.
we should watch the Avengers, but the whole time just be like, hey, when does Iron Man show up in this? This is
When
weird.
are they gonna get to the fireworks factory?
So like,
Oh, they have the new Avengers.
That
That only came out like 2 months ago.
that's a pretty
Yeah,
good
but there's
movie.
also-
That's okay.
There was a
Yeah.
whole season. I
Uh,
haven't seen. Where are we on Marvel? How do we feel? I don't. Let's pivot. Fuck it. Let's talk. We're into this conversation. You know, we don't.
Alright.
How are we feeling about Marvel? as a
Remember
whole?
how like before we started recording, Scott was like, I don't think we're gonna get to all these news stories, and I was like,
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't care about Battlefield 6. Like, I don't give a fuck. You know, let's talk about shit. Let's talk about stuff.
All right, you want to talk stuff? Let's talk stuff.
How are we
I-
feeling?
I'll go see Fantastic Four. Like, that's where I'm at. I'll go see it. Like, I don't... At this point, like, hey. I watched all of the Inhumans TV show. I watched all of it.
Good lord.
In 2 days.
Did you clap in the cinema when
I clapped...
Blackagar Boltagon showed
Yeah.
up in Doctor Strange?
You know, there was a part of me that was like, fucking, I love Sam Raimi so much because this is the stupidest shit, and he is treating this character
Oh.
with the exact amount of respect that he deserves.
That was fucking gnarly. I mean, we're like 3 years out now. That is the fucking... Like, everyone talks about, like, you know, certain kills in Marvel. That is the fucking gnarliest shit I've ever seen. Like, I've seen fucking horror movies that
Yeah.
freaked me out less than the guy getting his fucking head exploded inside his own head in Doctor Strange. Like, what the fuck? I love Sam Raimi.
Yeah. They should let him direct everything. Just let him do, like, what's it called? Shakespeare. They should let Sam Raimi do a Shakespeare movie.
I was literally going to say with Sam Raimi, like that Doctor Strange film. That's the look. I had to look back. That is the last Marvel film I watched. At least it's the most recent stuff, anyway.
I'm on my letterboxd. I saw Deadpool and Wolverine, which was... You know what? I watched those first 2 Deadpools beforehand and was like, oh my god, these do not fucking hold up. Oh, Jesus Christ, these are not good.
Right. Yep.
Quite like that one. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was really good.
Yep.
That was a James Gunn joint.
You want to know what movie wasn't great?
For Love and Thunder.
Thor: Love and Thunder wasn't great, and so was Captain America: New World Order. That movie
I never saw that.
also... Speaking of movies sneaking politics into them, a movie that tried desperately to sneak politics out of it somehow. to like
the Ubisoft
say
of movies.
it. Genuinely, I came out of that movie being like, this feels like those old E3 demos that Activision used to give for Call of Duty every year, where it's clear that they
Yeah.
got a writer in who like just read about rare earth resources way too much, and he's like, yeah guys, the next war's gonna be over minerals. It's gonna be over gold.
The speaking of and Force Skins and Marvel Rivals,
You need to stop.
it's weird how that movie has tanked Taika Waititi in the public eye, right? I don't think I've ever seen the reaction to someone change so drastically in one movie.
I think the
Well,
vibes
with
just
Taika
got
Waititi.
bad. You know, the vibes just got bad. Ran
But I mean,
out of
like
charm.
everything he did before that was like extremely good.
Did he do What We Do in the Shadows?
Yeah,
Yep.
he
Yep.
did
Hmm.
Eagle versus Shark, which is fine. Boy, which is really good. What We Do in the Shadows, and then Hunt for the Wilder People, which is like a fucking perfect film. That's a 10 out of 10 film.
Sure.
And then you get the One Good For movie, and then the Hitler movie. And I think that was it until.
Anyway, moving on.
That's
Xbox
Suicide
turns
Squad.
on Outer World 2's $80 price point, reversing it to $70 and reimbursing pre-order customers. This is from Rebecca Valentine at IGN. This is a weird one. It seems like companies made the big push to $80 and it has not gone as smoothly as they expected. I think you saw this
Yeah.
a bit with Nintendo saying like, hey, Mario Kart is $80, but not every game is going to be $80, like DK isn't $80. But it seems like companies are not getting their way with this one in a way that they wanted and expected. There was reporting out there this week that apparently the new Battlefield will be $80, which if it is,
It's not gonna sell.
that's nuts that they were out there saying it's gonna hit 100 million players. Like, what the fuck you on about?
Is that not €80 for Battle?
€80, $80, yeah.
Is it not
Probably
usually
£80 as well.
70 for when it's €80?
No. So
No.
that's the thing is Europe gets fucked on these. Is games that are
Yeah.
$80 are also €80, which is more money.
But
And
does that not include like? I thought America doesn't include sales tax.
it might not. It might not. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So you know.
I think that there's a few layers to the Xbox thing, right? First off, you're not Nintendo, right? If Nintendo aren't even charging most things for 80, which to be fair, they did that last time. Like, I think Zelda Smash. That might have been it. Zelda and Smash
Can't remember.
were 60, and everything else was 50, at least in the UK, not over in America.
Yeah.
Zelda and Smash were more expensive. Jesus Christ. But everything else was just priced at like 50 or whatever.
I was just gonna say I could usually
it's
get
the same thing,
pre-orders like physically, yeah, for like
Right.
less than £40 for brand new Switch games, which
Yeah.
is crazy when you look at what other publishers are doing.
The
But then yeah,
but the other thing is like, okay, yeah. So it's probably gonna be Mario Kart, Animal Crossing this time around, or Zelda as well. But first you're not Nintendo. Two, it's Obsidian. Like I love Obsidian, but have Obsidian ever made a fucking like high selling game?
So here's the thing that I find interesting about the statement they put out. They put out the statement being like, hey, we're lowering the price on Outer Worlds 2. But further in the statement, the Xbox spokesperson goes on to say, we are focused on bringing players incredible worlds to explore and will keep our full-priced holiday releases, including the Outer Worlds 2, at $69.99 in line with current market conditions. So in a way, this announcement was a very subtle and quiet way of them getting out there and saying the next Call of Duty is going to be $70, not $80. And I think that that's why they use the Outer Worlds as the poster child for this. They wanted they wanted something smaller to take the bullish if they did have to revert this change. Because they made the announcement with hey, Outer Worlds is going to be $80, and also all of our winter slate will be $80, implying Call of Duty would be. And now they're saying, actually, Outer Worlds won't be $80, and Call of Duty won't be $80.
Yeah, I think it's worth remember. Sorry, Scott. I was just going to say, like, we have to remember as well with these games, they are also on Game Pass, something
Yeah.
Nintendo doesn't have.
That's what I was about to say. The third point I had was, how do you have the gall to charge $80 for fucking anything when you have told consumers for the last like 10 years that your first party games are worth $10 in a subscription every month? You know, like,
Yeah.
I get Game Pass is good in ways. I do not think, I never really feel that a Microsoft first party game has any value
In
when
the long run, you're totally right, because I've talked about, like, if you go into a CEX or used game store and you look at third party games for Xbox and for PlayStation, the Xbox ones are always cheaper. People inherently
Yeah.
think of Xbox games as less valuable. And you look at first party games as well. Like, if you look at the price of a secondhand God of War Ragnarok and the price of a secondhand, like, Gears of War 5, or God of War 1, which came out the same time as Gears of War 5, they are massively more. The PlayStation 1 is massively more expensive because people are like, hey, the like Xbox One just isn't worth it. Like, they have devalued their own product.
every person I know who plays on Xbox does not, like my brother-in-law is an Xbox person. I think the only games he ever plays outside of Game Pass are ones that I buy him off of like CD keys. Um,
Yeah.
the 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 other problem is also, like, I know we're not exactly fans of Microsoft's first party stuff, and it hasn't exactly been a while since they released anything good. But do you actually remember what the last time you paid full price for an Xbox first party game?
No.
Because I think
Genuinely,
mine
so
was.
I say this in total seriousness, never. Because I started with an Xbox Series X, so like I got Game Pass with that, and then I never got rid of Game Pass, and now that I have cancelled my Game Pass, I just don't play
I
things on my
know.
Xbox.
I think the only time I have done it since the Xbox One came out is Killer Instinct when that came to Steam.
Sure.
And like I paid for um, was Tony Hawk 1+2 under?
It was
Did
50
they own them
bucks
at
for
that
like
point?
the special edition.
Yeah, but did they own them at that point?
No, they
Don't
didn't own them
think
at that point.
so.
I bought the Tony Hawk games, but I
Yeah.
didn't. I don't think they owned them at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, because why would you, like, even Indiana Jones, which is like, you know, the first kind of game of the year contender I think they have had. Fuck knows how long, like since the 360 maybe. Actually, you know what?
Psychonauts is great.
Sunset
Yeah.
Overdrive came out in a really bad year, so that can be a game of the year contender.
Pentiment and Hi-Fi Rush
Yeah.
rule, but like, these games
No,
don't feel like they are valued by Xbox.
also, yeah, Pentiment was sold at a budget price, I believe.
Yeah, it was
I am.
$25, I think.
So was Hi-Fi
Yeah.
Rush, if I'm right. Hi-Fi Rush was only about 40.
Yeah.
I think so. I can't remember. All I was going to say is that I'm not actively not buying games off my Xbox at the moment because of the boycotts. But before that happened, I was I just didn't buy anything off of it. Like, unless it was like heavily discounted, I would go elsewhere.
Yeah, but
Like
that's what I
games.
mean. Why would you?
Yeah, like Games Pass has conditioned a lot of people to not buy games in the same way that Steam has conditioned a lot of people to wait for a sale.
Like, and it's infecting overall, I think, because I was speaking to someone recently who was like talking about the PlayStation Plus thing, where obviously
PlayStation Plus thing.
they don't do
Day one
first
games.
party games right away.
Yeah.
But
Oh, right.
it's
Yeah.
at the point now where people, like, I was talking to someone recently who was like, why the fuck is, not that Sony's released any games recently, but you know what I mean? Like, why the fuck are they not on PlayStation Plus? And it's, I don't know how you can do that in a way that doesn't, like, I think Game Pass and PlayStation Plus and all that is a positive in the long term.
Sure.
Where
Yeah.
people will now find games that maybe they wouldn't have found. I think PlayStation Plus and all that is very good for games like Rocket League or Humanity or something like that wouldn't maybe find its audience quite as strongly without it. You know,
Yeah, like
there is
yeah,
merit to some day one games, but
yeah,
when you put out like even Call of Duty now, like when you're putting out Call of Duty for £10 a year or £10 a month, sorry,
It's not sustainable
like
for like the industry as a
yeah,
whole, you know?
uh,
and also you're telling people, oh, by the way, Call of Duty is worth £10, you know, like,
like
and obviously it's not like that. Obviously, there's bigger factors at
Yeah.
play, but especially with single player games, like if you are someone who plays games consistently, like if I ever played an Xbox game in the last however many years, that's been 1 month of Game Pass I've bought. I've never really like Psychonauts 2. That was 1 month of Game Pass I bought. I didn't,
yeah,
Yeah.
like
I didn't stay on.
Microsoft clearly want that passive income each month to help make up for those gaps in between, but it's coming at the expense of the bigger sales.
Yeah. Anyway, it's interesting. I think that like it will be interesting to see what is the next Nintendo game that is $80. Like I'm very curious what that is because they've said there will be more of
Do you
those.
think they'll do Mario?
Depends what the Mario game is. You know, if it's like
Yeah,
a Mario collection or a Mario side thing or whatever, maybe
No,
not.
I mean like the next mainline Mario because they
Mainline
didn't do it for
Mario,
Mario
totally,
Odyssey.
totally. Mainline Mario, yes.
They didn't do it for Odyssey. They didn't do it for Donkey Kong. You know, so I wonder if they will because I don't know. Like Zelda and Odyssey to me are like that level together. You know, I don't really get why Zelda was bigger, and even then, the Smash one is a weird decision when you actually look at it because historically, Smash hasn't been that big in terms of Nintendo stuff.
I
Like
mean,
when you
this
think
time
that,
around, it was the totally right
oh
decision
yeah,
because it was the
oh
biggest
yeah,
thing
totally,
ever. And I think they probably looked at the numbers and the amount of like heat that it was getting online and the amount of people that were asking for it and made that judgment call.
they're definitely going to make the next Animal Crossing 80.
Oh
I
yeah,
think
totally.
Animal Crossing's a given, Zelda's a given, Smash is a given. I don't
nothing
know.
else
Brain
strikes me as a
Age,
given. Yes, finally.
$80
Come
Brain
on.
Age. Let's go.
Woo!
52 worldwide games. Oh, did you see? This is very quick news story, just in like the stupid way.
Uh,
Apparently, the new update for Mario Party Jamboree or whatever, the new update that came along with it, has broken Mario Wonder from being played offline on the Switch 2. That Switch 2 edition's definitely coming.
what?
Next time we come here for this podcast, there will have been a Nintendo Direct. That is my
How did they
speculation.
break Mario Wonder?
I don't know. It can't be played offline now, and I reckon that's probably like we're doing Switch 2 edition to Mario Wonder because that's
Man,
weirdly
Nintendo are really
absent.
good at this, huh?
It's weirdly absent in all the lists they have. There's no Switch 2 edition. There's no free update or anything
Yeah.
like that. But that was kind of was that the last big Switch game
It's
that
weird
come
that they
after
were
that?
like, hey, new Super Mario U Deluxe is now
Yeah,
running at 4K, but Mario Wonder isn't. That was all.
yeah.
That was weird.
I think that's
Yeah.
gonna be next for the like Switch 2 edition plus an expansion pack, maybe.
Yeah,
Hopefully, that game was
they
good.
might be like
That was a good ass game.
they might make that one of the perks of Nintendo Switch Online.
Oh no, I think if they do it Kirby where you have to pay for it because it's got new content in it. I don't know if they do a Switch 2 edition for a game like that. If not,
Um. Anyway, that's the
that's a good
news.
that's a good question. That's a good question.
Are you trying to set me up for a segue?
No.
Oh, why would
Questions.
he do that?
Questions from our patron supporters and backers on the website. This week we have a bunch of questions. And so first one here, in Jeff Grubb's Game Mess Discord, who's that? Someone told me that the P in P4 stands for P-E-E, and that's why the game is called P4 Golden. Is this true? Question mark.
It is absolutely correct. Yes. I'm sorry that you had to find out this way, but it is correct.
I hate to do it. That's not the name of the game. The game is not called P4. You fucked up.
It is called P4.
No,
It's P4 Golden.
It's called P4 because it's a park
Preem's Pont Pie.
I think the
That's so
interesting
creepy.
part of this is that we know that the next Persona game is going to be green. We know that that's like the main color. So
Yeah.
It's
so
gonna
does
be
that mean that this person's pee
black.
has gotten really like? That's worrying. They
No,
should
next
get that
one,
checked
next
out.
one's red.
Yeah.
Look,
It's the
I am
circle of
not a
life. Right, okay. The next, here's my theory. This is the game theory. Get me on whatever channel that is.
He's
Persona
retired,
3,
but yeah.
Persona 3 was blue, like water.
Okay.
You drink the water into Persona 4, which is yellow,
Uh-huh.
like pee.
Uh-huh.
You pee too hard, and that turns red from the blood,
Okay.
like Persona 5.
Yep.
Persona 6 is going to be white.
Wait, why white?
Moving on. Moving on.
Uh,
Please.
Because of this next question, that's a good segue.
Yeah. What do you feel is the correct way to depict sexiness in video games? This is regarding Wuchang Fallen Feathers, as well as games like Stellar Blade, and how they compare to games praised for their sexy protagonists, like Bayonetta. I think this is like directed at me because I was out there on Blue Sky talking about how sexless games are at the moment and how unsexy they are. But I think it would be much funnier if we asked the asexual in the room what they think.
I don't think there is like a specific correct way to do it because sexiness is subjective. But I do
What's
think
the
that if you're
sexiest Mario
going,
character?
What's the sexiest
oh,
what?
it means
Mario character.
look, I'm on the Wikipedia for this. It's Waluigi, obviously. Yeah.
Wiggler.
Shut up. Come on.
What?
It's Shy
Angry
Guy.
Wiggler.
No, it's
No.
Galumba, the rounded Goomba.
You're right.
Of course.
You're right.
No, but I think like if you're gonna try and do it, have the characters own it. You know.
Yeah, I
That,
think
that was my thing with Stellar Blades. When I played that, obviously I played it after all the discourse about it, and everyone compared it to Bayonetta. And that's such an unfavorable comparison to Stellar Blade because Eve is not aware of the fact that she looks like that. Eve is just kind of like the whole game, you know.
Sure.
Whereas Bayonetta walks like a fucking like, you know.
and that's kind of my thing with Wu Chang as well, is that game has a very sexy protagonist which like I think could work, but she doesn't, there's no point to it. There's no reason, there's no even acknowledgement that she knows she's like sexy. Which again is fine, but when every other character in that world is like massively deformed and is basically a monster, it kind of sticks out like a sore thumb. And it's like, well, you just made the protagonist sexy and everyone else looks like a real human character or like a monster. And that's kind of weird. It feels, and I said this on Blue Sky, but it feels like you are checking a box in a corporate sense. It feels like the level of sexiness that this character has is like a corporate approved checkbox, in the same way that having a season pass is something that we need to have in our live service game. You know, this feels like something that certain companies feel like they need to have in their single player games to get a certain segment of the audience on board. Yeah, I think like video game sexiness is something that and this comes back to what we were talking about earlier, but like there's not enough fucking weird sexiness. There's not enough sexiness where you're like, look at these fucking sickos, they had something in their mind and they wanted to portray it, and it's sexy because these people found it so sexy and they made it sexy. I think that comes through in certain games that are like super horny, like Hades, where it's like, oh, these characters are sexy because the people writing this know how to like make this legend and this lore and this mythology really appealing, and their love
Hades
for
did
it
come to mind.
yeah, and it shines through not because like, oh, the character art design is like sexy, but because the writing for it is so involved and is so convincing that they actually feel like realized in a way that makes that sexiness palpable.
I think it speaks volumes that whenever a game has, you know, like sex, a lot of the gamers are it's still very immature in many ways
Yeah.
at times, I think. And I think that's something we need to kind of get by before we get to that point, because, you know, like The Last of Us 2, for example, had those weird sex scenes, and you know what, like, there's a lot of problems with that game, especially in its writing. The fact that the characters have sex isn't really one of them.
Yeah.
Um,
And the fact that like it's depicted like a movie sex scene and quite
Yeah.
traditionally, like quite untraditionally for video games in a way, because it's, you know, it's depicted on screen. But the fact that like that became a huge sticking point of
I think
people not liking it because it was realistic, and I think, you know, some of that comes
I think
down.
it is maybe getting better in some ways because I think Cyberpunk handles stuff kind of well in ways. I've not finished it honestly, so maybe there's going to be something really bad at one point. But there's a bit at the start of the game where you just find like a naked person in a bath and you have to like get him to a paramedic or something. And like in the Xbox in the early Mass Effect era or something like that, that would have been like fucking news, you know? Like you look at hot coffee in GTA 5 now or GTA San Andreas now, you know, and
And
compare
it
it to
is
what we
so
had.
tame.
Yeah, we are getting better somewhat. It's probably not the best way to describe that, but I think it's the problem is maybe a certain type of immaturity around it. I do think it's funny that there, and there's like somewhat of a double standard at times. Sometimes I think because like Near Automata is very leery in a way that a game like Stellar Blade is, but obviously the writing is a bit subversive and it's a bit, you know,
I think
it does.
Nier is an interesting example because the creators of that game have gotten out there and said that that character is sexy because they wanted to make a sexy character.
Mm.
You know, they wanted to make a character that was overtly sexy and was
Yeah.
something that they could argalash. When I hear a lot of people talk about, like, when I hear people who worked on Stellar Blade talk about Stellar Blade, or like, the thing about Wu-Chang Fallen Feathers was I saw a PR person who worked on that game be like, hey, it's kind of weird that this character is so sexualized in the game because a lot of the marketing that we were told to, like, push forward was that this was an empowering game. And that's the language that you hear brought up a lot when people do have their sexy characters, like, oh, this is empowering and it's a woman, but, like, they don't actually do any of the legwork for it, so it comes off as really hollow.
I think yeah, when Nier, I think it's maybe even less Nier's fault and more how that character taking on a life of its own.
Yeah.
When Nier, because a majority of the kind of crossover content is very focused on that aspect of it. Whereas, I mean, there's bits in the story where they directly call out, you know, like the sexualization of that character and all that. But yeah, I mean, I think to pull it back, something isn't empowering just because it is, you know, sexualized. I think it needs to, like, if Stellar Blades, whatever the character was called, had the personality to back up the fact that she was empowered by this.
Yeah, I think it's one
Maybe
thing
it
to
wouldn't
get
be a
out
big
there
deal.
and say in an interview or character is empowered by their sexiness. It's another thing to actually depict it. And I think a lot of games are really good. They're good at getting out there and saying, like, no, our character's sexy because we want an empowering role model, and then they don't back it up when it push comes to shove in the
Well, I
writing.
think of like Lae'zel from Baldur's Gate 3. Like, she's very. That's probably maybe not the most forward character in the game because Gale is, because Gale's a fucking
Horn
perfect
dog,
pervert.
yeah.
Yeah. But Lae'zel is very forward in ways that if you look at that character from the start of the game, you wouldn't really
Yeah.
get that vibe. And I think that's maybe a good way to handle it. You know, even. But I don't know.
I know, I think some of it, and
Next
like some of this,
question.
yeah, some of this does come down to like video game writing chops and where they're at as an industry whole. And then we're talking about bigger issues of like, hey, a lot of writers that start in the games industry don't get mentorship and they don't stick around, and we have a lot of junior writers who get put on stuff, and it's like, then we're just talking about like the quality of writing in video games. So it's a different thing.
Would like to leave it on the point of I have far more respect for someone like you, literally like I made to be sexy because I wanted something to look at, than when Kojima was like, "You will be ashamed of your words and deeds." There's a real reason that it was she's a fucking plant. You know, like I have a lot more respect for someone who owns that side of it than
Oh yeah, like,
trying to justify it in shoddy
I'm a
ways.
big fan of horn dogs. Horn dogs are the best. There's some real horny people that I know, and they're great. Go live your horny life. but be upfront about it. Don't be like, actually, this is like not horny at all, like some people will be. Like, just be upfront about it, and that's all people want. Next question. Assuming any of you ever had one, man, what a brutal burn on all of us. Have all your partners been gamers? Either way, has it been a problem or a benefit?
I'll start this one then.
Yeah.
Not
'Cause
all
we
of them.
brought it up on this podcast.
Yeah, like most of them have been. My first girlfriend was more casually into games, but never really that into it. But generally speaking, it's never been a problem. No, I mean it's a mutual interest you can bond over. When oh, go on, sir.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, I don't think it's something that's ever relationship defining, at least to me.
I mean, it doesn't have to be, you know.
absolutely not.
So, you know,
Yeah.
you can have relationships that are formed over a core interest, and then you can have relationships that are formed over experiences. You know, it doesn't necessarily have to be. Some people connect because they're on a Discord server that is hyperfixated on one topic. Some people connect because they go on a dating app and they're just like, well, I'm just gonna roll the dice. And both of them are generally totally fine, and like no one relationship is necessarily going to outlast the other because of how they started or because of where the first like connection came from. Scott, I think you might have like a bit to say about like being in a relationship where your partner isn't as into like the video games that you are into.
I think that kind of what I was trying to say was like it would never be a problem for me if a partner didn't like it, you know. But I mean, I think my partner Laura, she has possibly the best taste in games of anyone I know, because her stance on games is, I really like Super Mario Odyssey, and that is perhaps the best.
That's a very good stance.
But yeah, I mean, it's. I mean, I do like push stuff her way when I think she'll like it, you know. But I'm never gonna be like, we need to play something. Like we played It Takes Two together, you know. But I'm not like we're not. You know, I'm not gonna be like, oh, you need to play this with me because, you know, we need to bond. Like if I know her well enough to know, like, she liked Link's Awakening, you know, stuff like that. But yeah, no, I wouldn't say it's a problem. I mean, it's a benefit in the sense that it is nice to bond, but you know, I don't think.
And you
it's
know,
only
like
nice to bond when it's something that
you
works,
don't have
you know?
to. You and your partner don't have to bond over every single interest. You don't have to be interested in the exact same things. I know people who are together and like their partner is way into heavy metal and they are super nosh. And it's totally healthy to have interests that are yours and to have interests that are yours plural, that are, you know, both of yours. And I think that being able to be like, hey, like, you might not like this, but I like this, and having those boundaries, or even just like genres of things, you know, like you're never gonna find someone who is interested in all the same movies that you are. You're never gonna find someone who's interested in all the same types of genre of books as you are, and it's just a bigger version of that. Like some people just don't love games, and that's fine.
One thing I will say pertaining specifically to this job is I think it is a big benefit that she's not really a big game person, because it in ways forces me to actually do other shit, you know, like I'm not much of like a TV show guy, but having like something to, you know, like something to like something to sit and watch together, you know,
Having
like,
someone else push you to go and do something other than play video games all day, because you can just do that in the shop. You can make it so that your only other hobby is, or your only hobby is gaming, and because like it's part of the job, you're like, well, this has to be my main hobby, this has to be the thing I focus on. And I think like I had to force myself to get into rugby and watching movies and then not necessarily trying to monetize it, because I was like, listen, I need a hobby that is not my work. And I think having a partner, they can be good at pushing you into those things, or at least being there doing their own hobbies, and then that infecting you and you taking notice of that.
Saying
So
that,
yeah,
it has been pretty funny seeing Laura gradually get into wrestling.
Very
you're a
fair,
terrible
yeah.
influence. Terrible influence.
It's like watching an infection take hold.
Yeah.
Slowly.
That's
Oh,
unhealthy.
I can say this, but for Formula One with Bry.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's
I
fucked up.
I will always maintain that every video game event and industry gathering is made better by at least one or two non-gamers being at it to ground everyone else.
Yeah.
So when everyone is having like their industry discourse and gossip and whatever at a bar after hours, they can lean over and be like, "Hey, this is all really stupid. You know that, right? Like this is fucking stupid." And they can like bring everyone to their senses. I think that's really healthy to have. Final question.
Shall we
here.
rapid fire this?
Yes. I was
once?
going to say, final question. This all comes from friend of the show, Owen Waters. So I'm just going to say these. Henry, Scott, you give me like 1 or 2 word answers and we'll just move on, okay? So I'm going to read these in a different order to the order that they're presented in. Which is the best Bonanza?
To play as Kong, to listen to Zebra.
Totally right.
I have not gotten through all of them yet, so that's premature.
Okay.
The last 2 are a touch underwhelming compared to the first 3, so don't worry.
Right, sure.
I think that second last one is a really cool ability. It's a really fun ability to mess around with.
Is, but it's not as flashy as the Zebra or Kong ones.
What would you like to see in DK Bonanza 2?
An expansion on the events of the ending that I cannot talk about here, but they have set up good villains that I would like to see do more.
Henry?
I would also like to express a similar opinion.
Cool. My answer to this is Stanley the Bugman. I want to see Stanley the
Of course
Bugman.
it is.
Less filler levels, because there's a few layers that are just like either like a path, or I mean the racing layer they showed off in the trailer, so I can talk about.
Yeah.
So that's one race. There's not like
That's a weird
was
level.
expanded
Yeah, it's a
into-
weird level.
If that was expanded into like Dragon Kart from Yakuza, where there was like a fucking full like mini game behind it, even if you only need to do one race to progress, it would be nice to have something extra there.
Sure.
Does DK Bonanza cement Mario as insert derogatory profanity of your own choice now that he doesn't have to be the
can't
best
believe you would say that.
EPD-H game?
I think I've said this publicly. I fucking love 3D Mario games. I really want another one of these, like, as soon as I can get one. Like, after finishing it, I was like, fuck me, I want another one.
The question I think this gets me thinking about is there any Mario expanded universe characters that you think would be worth doing a platformer for? Because Luigi, they're kind of like, Luigi's Mansion is a different thing. Wario, they tried and then they gave up. Do you think they'll ever go back to that? And do you think they'll ever give Peach one? Or do you think that, like, would we get a Rosalina platformer?
I think you can only really do, and I don't, this is going to sound bad, but I don't think you can do a Rosalina platform. I don't think you can do a Peach platform. I don't think you can do a Luigi platform. I think you can only do Mario, Donkey Kong, Wario, because they have these kind of predefined
Because you
movesets
love
in the
thick men,
character.
I know.
Yeah, exactly. They have these predefined movesets, and Donkey Kong Bonanza almost feels kind of Wario-esque with the Bonanza transformations and stuff like that. But I think they all kind of offer, even going back to the 2D platformers, they all offer like different things. Like Mario that's a fucking platformer right there. Donkey Kong is very like heavy and it's very like momentum based. Whereas Wario is like a mixture of momentum based stuff, but also kind of a Metroidvania kind of tinge to it, in the sense that there's a lot of exploration, there's a lot of you know, kind of free form stuff for that character, and you see it a lot in games like Pizza Tower and all that, where like, you know, they are Metroidvania is not the right word, but it's like the Metroidvania of a platform. It's like very freeform and very thing. And I think you could meaningfully do like expand on that to make a good Wario 3D platformer, especially if you go to like Wario World where like that dude just fucking punches stuff. That could
I
be good.
wonder if what's the name? The guy who did the Mario and Rabbids games is now doing a game for Nintendo. Like, I bet he is, because he started his own studio, and I'm very curious to see what that is.
I think that Ubisoft are doing another Mario and Rabbids game with Rayman.
That would
I think that's
be bad.
They have announced a Rayman AAA game, and it's being developed by Milan, which he left.
Mm.
I can absolutely see that not being Rayman like everyone wants it to be, and being a Rayman and Rabbids XCOM kind of game.
That'd be funny. Anyway,
one more
next question. Next one, Monkey ?
Yes.
Monkey.
Final one. Why is DK Bonanza Game of the Year?
Because it feels fucking good. It feels so good to play. I didn't talk about this earlier. The story to DK Bonanza is surprisingly fun.
Yep.
It's
The
Nintendo
characterization
writing
is
through.
like, it's Disney level, but like Disney makes good
Yeah.
stories quite often.
Pauline is genuinely like really cool. Like I didn't think I would like her as much as I did. There's like whenever you create a hideaway in any of the levels, like each hideaway, if you go to sleep in it, Pauline has like a different bit of dialogue. And that's the first time voice acting gig. The person who voices Pauline used to do like music on YouTube and all that. She's never done voice acting before, and it is like really good for like.
It's super good. Anyway, those are our questions for this week. Before we go, we have shout outs to our Rewinder store clerks. These are our gold tier patrons.
We need to acknowledge it. We will do the quiz.
We will do the quiz. I will find the quiz.
We're in a time crunch.
Yeah. We will do the quiz. Gold tier shout outs. Owen Waters, Chris Haney, Caladrius, Branford Hubbard, Daniela Noak, Guy Thompson A4 Gaming, and a big thank you to everyone else.
And the
rest. We are going to be doing a Rewinder live stream at some point over the next little while. So, like I said earlier on in the show, make sure to follow our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/rewindermedia. You can follow us on Blue Sky at rewinder.co.uk. Check out the website as well, rewinder.co.uk. You can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/rewinder. Is there anything that we have planned to... I have like 2 pieces I'm working on, one about Souls-likes and one about frame rates. I swear it's more interesting than it sounds. Do either of you have stuff that you're toying with at the moment that you're going to try to get up on the site?
So I still need to do the Patapon thing. After recording the last podcast, I got really ill for like a week. So I have been burnt out since then. So I've still got that. There's maybe something I want to write about, but maybe a bit later, so I can talk about more stuff about Bonanza without, ruining it for anyone. And I'm going to review something that I cannot. That'll be
next week, I think.
Next week?
Yeah, I think it's next week.
I believe.
Yeah. Henry?
So I'm currently waiting to see if I will get review access to a particular game. I won't say it yet, just in case I don't. Otherwise,
Hitler 4.
Scott, we talked about this. Please.
No spoilers.
I didn't
no
say
spoilers.
No embargo. I'm allowed to talk about it.
You're right.
Fine.
That's just how embargoes work. Every PR company knows this. They're like, drats, they outsmarted us again.
I'm going to get my friend to send me a press release and post it on the site. I am an insider.
Careful now. Henry.
I'm going to peek over the shoulder of all Ubisoft employees on the subway.
Honestly, a lot of the pieces that I put up on there, especially like the shorter features, is very much when the mood takes me. Not because obviously, looking to put out various things, but right now it's like I don't want to just write for the sake of writing. That's not why we started this, So I will, to be confirmed. Let's say that.
Yep. there'll be more stuff next week. It's my birthday, so if you want to send me money, I guess, or commission me, that would be nice.
No, send money to the website.
You're right. Send money to the website.
Rewinder, and that way
too.
we can also get it, and not just Lex.
But that will do us for another podcast.
Well, wait a minute.
Yeah.
We have something else.
Do we?
We have the Hulk Hogan Memoriam segment with the really sad, somber cover.
Okay, we're gonna call it there. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time on Be Kind Rewinder.
R.I.P. Ozzy Osbourne as well. He's cool. He's actually cool.